The needle kissed the red line with a final, mocking tremor. Gas. Empty. I cursed under my breath, the sound swallowed by the oppressive silence of the night. This back road, a shortcut, according to my phone's increasingly unreliable GPS, was living up to its ominous reputation. Trees clawed at the edges of the asphalt, their branches skeletal against the inky sky. Not a house, not a light, not another goddamn car in sight. Great job, Maya, I muttered to myself, slamming my fist against the steering wheel. Running on fumes. Top-notch planning. My phone, predictably, had 0 bars. I'd been relying on cached maps, which, in their limited wisdom, hadn't factored in the complete absence of civilization. I was miles from anywhere, stuck in what felt like the deepest, darkest pocket of rural Pennsylvania. The kind of place where Stephen King got his ideas. Reluctantly, I grabbed my flashlight, a heavy mag light that I usually kept in the trunk for emergencies. I figured walking was my only option. Maybe, just maybe, there was a house, a farm, something within walking distance. I took a deep breath, steeling myself against the creeping unease that was already settling into my bones. The air outside was thick and damp, heavy with the scent of decaying leaves and something else, something indefinably earthy and rank. The beam of my flashlight cut a meager swathe through the darkness, revealing only the immediate surroundings. Twisted tree roots, a carpet of damp foliage, and the glint of unseen eyes in the distance. Probably just deer, I told myself, but the thought did little to soothe the prickling sensation on the back of my neck. I started walking, my boots crunching on the gravel that lined the road. Every snap of a twig, every rustle in the undergrowth sent a jolt of adrenaline through me. The silence was almost unbearable, broken only by the frantic thumping of my own heart and the occasional hoot of an owl. After what felt like an eternity, I noticed something ahead. A flicker of light, barely visible through the trees. Hope surged through me, banishing the cold dread for a moment. I quickened my pace, my flashlight beam dancing wildly in my eagerness. As I got closer, the light resolved itself into a single, flickering bulb hanging above the porch of what could generously be described as a shack. It was dilapidated, the paint peeling off in strips, the porch sagging precariously. The windows were dark, and an unsettling stillness hung in the air. I hesitated. Everything about this place screamed bad idea, but the alternative was spending the night huddled in my car, alone, in the middle of nowhere. Swallowing my apprehension, I approached the porch and knocked on the door. The sound echoed through the silence, amplified by the surrounding woods. I waited, holding my breath, my hand hovering over the flashlight, ready to wield it as a weapon if necessary. After a few excruciatingly long moments, I heard movement inside. A shuffling sound, followed by the creak of hinges. The door opened slowly, revealing a figure silhouetted against the dim light within. "Can I help you?" The voice was raspy, like gravel gargling water. I squinted, trying to make out the person in the doorway. It was an old woman, her face a web of wrinkles, her eyes dark and sunken. She was hunched over, leaning heavily on a gnarled walking stick. "My car ran out of gas down the road," I explained, trying to keep my voice steady. "I was wondering if you might have some I could buy, or if you know where the nearest gas station is." The old woman stared at me for a long moment, her eyes unblinking. "Gas stations miles from here, child." "Miles?" My heart sank. "So, you don't have any gas?" She paused, her gaze unwavering. "I might have a little something. Come inside, out of the cold." Despite the warning bells clanging in my head, I accepted. The promise of warmth, of human contact, was too tempting to resist. I stepped inside, into the dimness of the shack. The air inside was stale and heavy, thick with the smell of mildew and something else, something sickly sweet and cloying. The room was sparsely furnished, with a few threadbare chairs, a rickety table, and a wood-burning stove in the corner. The light from the single bulb cast long, distorted shadows across the walls. "Have a seat," the old woman croaked, gesturing to one of the chairs. "I'll see what I can find." I sat down cautiously, my eyes darting around the room, trying to take everything in. There was something unsettling about the place, something that made my skin crawl. An old, framed photograph on the wall caught my eye. It showed a group of people posed stiffly in front of the shack. Their faces were blurred, indistinct, but there was something about their expressions that sent a shiver down my spine. They looked haunted. The old woman returned, carrying a rusty metal can. "This is all I got," she said, placing it on the table. "Enough to get you to the next town, maybe." I breathed a sigh of relief. "Thank you so much. How much do I owe you?" She waved her hand dismissively. "No charge, child. Just be careful on the road. There are things out there that aren't friendly." Her words sent another chill through me. "What do you mean?" She just smiled, a slow, unsettling smile that revealed a row of yellowed teeth. "You'll see." I ignored the prickling sensation on my neck and asked for a funnel. She led me to the back of the shack, the floorboards creaking ominously under our feet. The back room was even darker and more cluttered than the front, filled with piles of junk covered in dust sheets. As she rummaged through a box in the corner, I noticed something out of the corner of my eye, a shadow moving in the periphery of my vision. I turned my head, but there was nothing there. "Here you go," the old woman said, handing me a battered funnel. "Be careful now." I thanked her again and hurried back to my car, the can of gas clutched tightly in my hand. I filled the tank as quickly as I could, trying to ignore the feeling of being watched. Once the engine sputtered to life, I breathed a sigh of relief. I thanked the old woman again, promising to send her some money for the gas. "Just be careful," she repeated, her eyes glinting in the darkness. "And don't come back." I didn't need to be told twice. I put the car in gear and sped away, not daring to look back. As I drove, the old woman's words echoed in my head. There are things out there that aren't friendly. I tried to dismiss them as the ramblings of a lonely old woman, but the unease persisted. A few miles down the road, I saw something in my rearview mirror. A pair of headlights, growing closer. I glanced at my speedometer. I was already going well over the speed limit. The headlights continued to gain on me until they were right behind my bumper. I gripped the steering wheel tightly, my heart pounding in my chest. Who was this? What did they want? Suddenly, the car behind me swerved, pulling alongside. I caught a glimpse of the driver, a figure shrouded in shadow, their face obscured by the darkness. The car lurched forward, bumping against my own. I screamed, swerving to avoid them. The car behind me swerved too, matching my movements. They were trying to run me off the road. Panic surged through me. I floored the accelerator, desperate to escape. The car behind me kept pace, its engine roaring. As we raced down the road, I saw something ahead. A figure standing in the middle of the road, bathed in the eerie glow of my headlights. It was the old woman. I slammed on the brakes, swerving to avoid her. My car spun out of control, careening towards the edge of the road. I braced myself for impact, closing my eyes. The crash never came. I opened my eyes slowly, tentatively. My car was parked on the shoulder of the road, the engine still running. The old woman was gone. The car that had been chasing me was gone. I sat there for a long moment, trying to catch my breath, trying to make sense of what had just happened. Had I imagined it all? Was it just a hallucination, brought on by fatigue and fear? I didn't know. But I knew one thing. I wasn't going to stick around to find out. I put the car in gear and drove away, as fast as I could. I didn't stop until I reached the relative safety of the interstate, the familiar glow of civilization a welcome sight. I never took that back road again. And I never forgot the old woman, her dark eyes and unsettling smile. For years, I tried to convince myself that it had all been a bad dream, a product of my overactive imagination. But sometimes, when I'm alone in the dark, I remember the feeling of being watched, the sound of those unseen eyes in the woods. And I wonder if the old woman was right, if there really are things out there that aren't friendly. A few years later, driven by morbid curiosity and a need to finally put the experience to rest, I tried to find the shack again. I drove for hours, retracing my steps as best I could. but the road I remembered seemed to have vanished. The trees were denser, the landscape unfamiliar. The GPS showed nothing but endless forest. There was no sign of the shack, no sign of the old woman. It was as if the entire episode had been erased from reality. And yet, the memory remains, vivid and unsettling. A constant reminder that some places are best left forgotten, some roads best left untraveled. Sometimes, late at night, I still smell that cloying, sickly sweet scent, and I swear I hear the creak of floorboards and the shuffling of feet. And I know, with a bone-chilling certainty, that the old woman is still out there, waiting for someone else to lose their way. And that somewhere, along a forgotten back road in Pennsylvania, those unfriendly things are still watching, waiting for the darkness to fall. The gas tank never truly feels full after that. There's always a sliver of paranoia, a fear of being stranded again, at the mercy of the night and whatever horrors lurk within it.